right, Chad Burnett from Comic Watch here on the floor of New York Comic Con 22 at the IDW booth with Matthew Klein, whose new book, Crashing, is currently in, the first issue is awesome. I read it. First off, tell me a little bit about, how you got into comic books. Do you remember the first comic book that you read?
Yeah, so the first comic I ever read, my Uncle Michael got me a copy of Superman 75. He bought 2 copies. One was to save for my college education, and one was to read. And I read that, and then I don't think I read another comic until I was in college. Because I was like, why am I reading the end of a story? What happened? I don't know. So I got into it through the animated series like Batman, TAS, and Spider-Man. The mid-90s were a great time for superhero animation. So yeah, and then I started reading comics in college, trying to get a date with a girl down the hall.
All right.
There you go. Did not get a date, but I've been in comics for 10 years now. And so I started reading graphic novels primarily, and the first one that I picked up was Batman Face to Face from the 1 Year Later storyline. And then I just started finding all the lists of best graphic novels to read, what's happening in comics, and I just got sucked into the fandom.
Now, you've had other jobs in the comic book industry.
I think I've done everything except being a printer. I worked in a shop in Manhattan called Forbidden Planet. I was there for several years. Then I worked at Valiant Entertainment for about 6 years there, and I worked my way up to Vice President of Sales and Marketing. So I had a team of 7 under me at one time, was there for several years. And then last year, in April 2021, I moved over, and my day job is I work for Penguin Random House. And I work on the U.S. Comics. Small company. They're a startup. They're going to make it someday. But they got Marvel Comics and IDW and a few others. And yeah, so my job day to day is I sell comics to comic shops. And so I've been surrounded by comics, and now I have my first book out with IDW, which is really exciting.
So what kind of, made you take that leap from being, on the sales into comic books to, I want to write one?
Honestly, common sense. And I say that because I've been a writer since I was 13 years old. I have a degree in creative writing. I got my master's in theater, and I was a playwright for many years. I had my own theater company. I was producing small shows all over New York. I've been producing shows in Florida, Toronto, directed a few things in festivals out in San Francisco even. And during the pandemic, I started doing audio dramas and was writing those for a podcast called April is the Cruelest Month. It's all what if alternate history stories. They're great. And then, but when theater shut down during the pandemic, I was like, all right, I have no excuse now. I've written music videos, I've written spec scripts for film and TV, and now I should try comics. I know everybody. I have relationships with all these stores, all these editors, all this talent. I know what it takes. And I finally just took the plunge, and here we are.
So tell those people who, and they should have read Crashing.
Thank you.
Tell us a little bit about, just kind of an overview of what it's about.
Yeah.
Maybe what inspired that.
I call Crashing Nurse Jackie meets Daredevil. You follow this doctor who is struggling with trying not to relapse after 7 years of an addict, who by day treats superheroes and by night moonlights treating supervillains. And on the most trying, challenging, horrible day of her career, after a mass casualty event where she has to save Boston's protector and its attempted destroyer and not relapse, can she do all three? And that is the central question of issue 1. All of that will be answered and kicks off the rest of the story. So it is a character-driven medical drama set within a world of superheroes.
Now, is there a particular character that you kind of gravitate? I mean,
Rose is kind of the hero of the story. So she really came from me watching testimonials of doctors and nurses at the height of the pandemic, who were these everyday heroes who were completely overwhelmed in a situation where they felt powerless, and were dealing with their own personal issues of trauma and loss and trying to get over a panic attack in the parking lot so they could make it through the doors and do a 12-hour shift. And that's really where Rose came from, from those testimonials and watching those everyday heroes be heroic.
Now, is this like an ongoing, or is it,
Right now it's 5 issues.
5 issues, okay.
We tell a complete story. Rose has a beginning, middle, and end to her journey all the way through. I would love to do more. If IDW is open for it, if the readers demand it, then that's how it happens.
So, is there anything that you've learned making that transition from
so much
the business side to the writing side?
So much. I mean, I say this often when people ask me, like, what have you learned? It's like, failure is your path to success.
Okay.
You don't know what you don't know until you find out that you don't know it, and the only way is to try and fall on your face. Proverbially, I don't wish that on anyone physically. Keep all your teeth and your nose intact. But so there was a lot, like, coming from different mediums, learning the rules, learning how to write for the page turn, learning to, I only have this many pages that hook the reader, and then I've got to give them a cliffhanger to make sure they get back, so that episodic storytelling is a little different than what I've done before. So it's coming up with really understanding how to write for the reading experience is different than writing for the podcast experience or the live event experience. And that was really the biggest learning curve.
And tell us a little bit about the rest of the creative team. Who are you working with?
Oh my God, it's a dream team. I was so spoiled on this project because I'm working with unbelievable professionals who are bringing their A games. First off, I got to give credit to my editor, Heather Antos, who is, I would argue, the best editor in the game. She believed in this pitch from the very beginning, worked with me on it from the start, and then she's been an incredible project manager, bringing the best out of all of us. We brought on Morgan Beam for artwork, and Morgan's storytelling is absolutely second to none, especially because it's a world with superheroes, but Morgan does a more indie style artwork, and she really focuses on emotions, on character beats, and that's really what the story is. It's a story of addiction set within a world of superheroes. So she does a brilliant job panel to panel with that storytelling where you understand the weight of every moment. Shona Farrell is the bee's knees of colorists in the industry. What she does with colors in this book, the way she uses certain palettes and accent colors to designate where the moods are, how the addiction is creeping in particular, is brilliant. She just adds a tone and depth to the story that would not be there otherwise. And then Hassan Atsmani-Elhau, who is like the go-to letterer for 50 comics right now at every publisher, who just brings, the letterers don't get enough credit because we don't know if a character is angry and yelling or shouting and whispering or what the sound effects are, and like he just adds this next level of emotion to everything these characters are saying to each other, and it wouldn't be there without him. So I am unbelievably fortunate. I wish every experience going forward will be like this, but I also understand if I got spoiled real out of the gate with an absolutely top-notch team.
So, preference?
Sure.
Writing the comic or selling the comics?
Oh man, I can't choose. I can't choose. I love selling comic books. I love, my favorite part of comics was hand selling to customers every day of the week, because you are showing them a path to escapism, catharsism, discovery in a way that's so rewarding. Nobody has to buy comic books. We are not underwear and socks. You are not required to wear these in your daily life. We are giving them something else. We are giving them something deeper, which is really exciting, and that is a privilege. So I love being able to work and show someone and see them have that experience. So I adore that. On the other side, if I don't write, I literally get depressed. It's one of those things, like writing keeps me sane, it keeps me happy, it is a source of joy and love in my life that I absolutely need on at least a weekly basis. So my partner will tell you it's better if I'm writing. My boss will tell you she wants me selling. So there you go.
Now, do you have any, who are your writing influences?
Oh man,
I'm sure you could probably have a long list.
Ed Brubaker and Greg Rucka, right off the bat. I mean, Gotham Central is without a question an ancestor for Crashing. That idea of setting a procedural on some level within a world of superheroes. But I think Ed Brubaker and Greg Rucka, on an issue-by-issue basis, their storytelling, they don't have a bad issue. Sometimes there are better issues than others, but they don't have a bad issue. Their fundamentals of storytelling are so strong, it is awe-inspiring. Brian K. Vaughan is another one. If you want to look at how to structure a single issue comic. I think Brian K. Vaughan may be at the top of everyone's game right now. Again, thinking about the reader experience, he does it better than just about anyone out there currently. So I love Brian K. Vaughan's storytelling. I love how he structures every single issue, and he was a major inspiration and touch point for me on crafting the issue-by-issue arcs here.
Is there anything else that maybe we didn't touch on that you wanted to say, and where, give one final pitch for the book and where people can find you on the socials?
Yeah, no, that's great. Let's see. So one final pitch for the book. Again, this is Nurse Jackie Meets Daredevil. It is a superhero medical drama with an emphasis on an everyday hero who is fighting through her own worst impulses and instincts. That is our story. That is who our journey is. Her superpower is to save everyone. She just does it with a scalpel and a chest protractor instead of a healing ray. And then you can find it anywhere comics are sold right now, unless they're sold out. But even if they are, ask them to reorder it, or there are plenty of shops out there that do mail order service. If you don't, especially if you don't have a local shop near you. You can find me on social media. I was an idiot and didn't have all my socials be uniform because I never thought I would need to. I never thought I'd be on this end of a microphone. So you can find me on Twitter at Matthew Klein 316 because I am the bottom line when it comes to comics and pro wrestling markdom. And then you can also find me on Instagram at MacTheKnife1116.
All right. Well, I want to thank you for taking the time to talk, and
thank you.
I'm looking forward to the next couple issues, and
it only gets worse from here, Chad. Issue 1's the happy issue.
No, that's the happy issue.
But I will say this: it only continues to get more gripping and high stakes from here.
I read it the other night for the first time, and it was so.
Did the last page get you?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Like I said, I can't wait for the next issue. So that's it. That's
every last page is like that. I promise.
That's a mark of a good book. If it keeps me wanting to come back, and your book definitely doesn't do that. Does do that.
He'll edit that out.
Yeah. Like I edit all my stuff.
But thank you for taking the time today.
I want to thank you for taking the time. Great to finally meet you in person. I know we talked briefly the other day on Facebook, and but
it's been a pleasure. And anytime you want, I'll be back.
All right. Well, enjoy the rest of the show, and
you too.
It was good to meet you.
Yeah.